Here is what a 1,000% gain on XRP actually looks like in your bank account. Not as a fantasy, not as hopium, as math. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why the institutions setting up the global financial reset have already done the math themselves. And spoiler, their math and our math land in the same place. Let me give you the number first because that is what you came here for. XRP sitting right now around $1.40-something. A 1,000% move from current levels puts you north of $14 per coin. That is not a moonshot fantasy. That is 1/4 of the way to where the liquidity math of the global Nostro Vostro system demands XRP must go if it is going to do the job it was architected to do. We will get to that math in a moment because it is going to reframe everything you think you know about this asset. But first, let me tell you what most people are getting wrong right now. Most people are watching the price bounce between $1.30 and $1.50, and they are letting their emotions run the show. They see flat price action, and they hear the noise machine cranking up, and they start to wobble. That is exactly the play. That is the designed psychological operation being run on retail investors right now. Because the window to accumulate at these prices is closing, and the people engineering that window closing are not retail. They are institutional. Here is the original insight number 1 that you have not heard anyone connect yet. The SEC Clarity Act that is moving forward right now is not consumer protection legislation. It is infrastructure enabling legislation. Think about that framing shift for a moment. The United States government does not spend political capital moving financial legislation forward to protect the little guy. They move legislation forward when the architecture beneath it is already built, and the entities that will benefit from regulatory certainty are large enough to matter to the Treasury. XRP already moves value across borders for financial institutions. The Clarity Act is not opening a door. It is removing a temporary wall that was slowing down a process already underway. Gary Gensler is gone. Let that sink in for a second, because the transformation from that regulatory environment to the current one is not a small shift in tone. It is a structural reversal. The SEC under Gensler treated crypto as securities to be suppressed. The current posture treats tokenized assets as infrastructure to be integrated. Those are not the same universe. And XRP sits at the intersection of both because it won the legal battle that every other project was afraid to fight. Now let us do the math that nobody wants to do on camera because the numbers are almost too large to say out loud with a straight face. The global correspondent banking system moves approximately $150 trillion per year through cross-border transactions. To lubricate that system, banks currently park what is called Nostro Vostro capital. Pre-funded accounts sitting idle in foreign currencies around the world just to make transactions work. Conservative estimates put that trapped capital at somewhere between $5 and $10 trillion at any given moment. Doing nothing, earning nothing, just sitting there as a tax on the global financial system. XRP was engineered specifically to eliminate that trapped capital. 3 to 5 second settlement, fraction of a cent per transaction, provable at scale. Now here is where the math gets interesting. If XRP captures even 10% of the liquidity flow that currently requires Nostro Vostro parking, it needs a market cap large enough to handle that volume without catastrophic slippage. ChatGPT and independent quantitative analysts have run this math multiple ways. The consensus lands between a $500 billion and a $2 trillion market cap for XRP to function at that scale without breaking. At current circulating supply, that math produces a per-unit price range of roughly $10 on the conservative end to $35 on the institutional end. And that is before you factor in any speculative premium. That is pure utility math. So when technical analysts are saying XRP is due for a major rally into double digits, they are not reading tea leaves. They are reading the infrastructure roadmap. Here is original insight number 2, and this one connects dots that I have not seen anyone draw directly. The United States is carrying between $35 and $45 trillion in national debt, depending on how you account for unfunded liabilities. Jerome Powell knows this. Janet Yellen knew this. The current administration knows this. The traditional toolkit for managing sovereign debt is limited. You inflate it away, which destroys the middle class. You raise taxes, which destroys economic growth. You default, which destroys the dollar's reserve status. Or you find a fourth option. And the fourth option that has been quietly discussed in sovereign wealth circles is the tokenization of U.S. assets backed by a neutral bridge currency that does not belong to China and does not belong to the European Central Bank and does not sit on a blockchain that America does not have regulatory leverage over. XRP is the only asset in existence right now that has simultaneously won a U.S. legal battle, confirming it is not a security, demonstrated institutional adoption at the central bank level through Ripple's partnerships, and maintained the fastest settlement infrastructure in the cross-border payment space. That is not coincidence. That is positioning. Larry Fink at BlackRock has been explicit about the tokenization of real-world assets being the next frontier of finance. Brad Garlinghouse has said publicly that Ripple is in conversations at the sovereign level. Fox Business has covered XRP's institutional momentum. Bloomberg has covered Ripple's expanding banking partnerships. These are not fringe publications running hopium. These are the same outlets that told you Bitcoin was a bubble at $20,000 before it hit $60,000. When mainstream validation arrives in crypto, it tends to arrive right as the parabolic phase begins. We are in the pre-parabolic accumulation window right now, and the price action is boring by design. Here is something worth understanding about what happened during the SEC lawsuit period. XRP got delisted from major U.S. exchanges. Retail panic sold. Institutional hands quietly accumulated. The price got compressed into the ground. And then it ran over 1,200% from the lows. The structure of what is happening right now rhymes with that period, not identically. Markets never repeat exactly, but the pattern of regulatory uncertainty suppressing price while institutional infrastructure build-out continues underneath the surface. That pattern is unmistakable if you are looking at the data and not at the noise. Now, let me give you original insight number 3, because this one reframes the entire timeline argument. Most XRP holders are waiting for a single catalyst. The Clarity Act passes. XRP moons, clean and simple. But that single catalyst framing is actually too narrow, and here is why that matters strategically. The digital identity infrastructure being built on distributed ledger technology right now is not waiting for the Clarity Act. Governments are already piloting on-chain credentialing for medical records, educational credentials, and proof of ownership across multiple jurisdictions. The World Economic Forum, the BIS, and the IMF have all published framework documents outlining the migration of legacy financial identity infrastructure onto distributed ledger rails. This means XRP is not one catalyst away from relevance. It is already embedded in the architecture of a system that is being built, whether retail investors pay attention or not. The Clarity Act is not the beginning. It is the regulatory ribbon cutting on a building that is already standing. Here is what that means practically. When clarity passes, the price discovery that happens will not be slow and gradual. It will be fast and violent to the upside, because institutional capital that has been sitting at the threshold waiting for legal certainty does not ease in slowly. It allocates in blocks. We have seen this movie before in traditional markets, when regulatory clarity drops on a sector that was artificially suppressed. The compression releases all at once, and the people who were accumulating during the boring period become the people who changed their financial trajectory permanently. You can buy XRP right now at prices that in 2 years, people will reference the way people reference Bitcoin at $1,000 or Ethereum at $50. Not because someone on YouTube told them it was going up, because the math of what it has to be worth to do the job it was built to do demands a higher price. The question is not whether this happens. The question is whether you are going to let the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt that is deliberately manufactured to shake weak hands loose actually work on you. Elizabeth Warren and the political class that spent years attacking this space did not do it because they were protecting you. They did it because they were protecting a legacy financial system that has been extracting value from working people for decades. The same people talking publicly about crypto danger are the same people whose campaign donors run the institutions that XRP is about to disrupt. Follow the incentives. Always follow the incentives. The internet comparison that gets made a lot in this space is not wrong, but it undersells the moment. The internet changed how information moves. What is being built right now on distributed ledger technology changes how value moves. And value is bigger than information. Value is the entire operating system of human civilization. The people who understood what the internet was before everyone else did not get rich slowly over decades. They got rich in windows, specific narrow windows where the gap between what an asset was worth and what it was priced at was enormous. We are in one of those windows right now. The math confirms it. The institutional build-out confirms it. The regulatory trajectory confirms it. Here is where we land. XRP above $14 is a 1,000% gain from current levels, and the liquidity math says that is the conservative destination, not the aggressive one. The Clarity Act removes the last artificial ceiling on price discovery. Digital identity infrastructure on distributed ledgers creates a second massive adoption vector beyond payments. The national debt crisis creates a sovereign incentive to integrate neutral bridge assets into U.S. financial strategy, and every major institution from BlackRock to the IMF to the Federal Reserve is actively building toward a tokenized financial system. All roads lead to the same destination. The people who look back at this moment with regret will not be the ones who bought and held through the boring price action. They will be the ones who let someone else's doubt become their own. You already did the research. You already found your way here. The conviction was never the problem. The patience is the work now. And time always rewards those who understood the math before the crowd caught up. Stay sharp. Stay patient. The window is still open, but windows like this do not stay open forever.